Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moodie.
And I'm Wajahat, and we have to get Danielle Moodie out by 12:30. We have to discuss all the news in 30 minutes. And of course, the one day that Danielle has like 18 things to do, all these news items drop, Danielle.
I know, it's breaking news all over the place. So let's just get into it, dear friends. Boom, this morning. Trump White House issued an executive order that called for a block on all federal funding to PBS and NPR, alleging that both organizations have engaged with biased and partisan news coverage. So they're Fox? I'm confused.
Basically, this is what happens in authoritarian regimes, and the Republicans have been flirting with this for a while. Specifically, really angry at NPR because of the mixing of like donations and public funds. And, they're essentially like, why isn't it more favorable to us? It's biased, liberal bias. And it just seems like, PBS and NPR, the people behind that and on screen and on the radio, are against fascism and decide to do real journalism, Danielle.
Yeah, it's weird. And so, look, we shouldn't be shocked by these things that Donald Trump, by the way, said that he was going to do, said that he was going to defund these places. What I would like to see, to be honest, is I'd like to see the quote unquote good billionaires. I don't know where they are, but the good billionaires actually step in and do something more than, pose with Teslas and like buy another house or yacht, like actually give back in ways that are going to benefit the public. And so a bunch of millionaires and billionaires who are in media or in education, where are you? Calling on you to take on and support NPR and PBS in ways that like we have not seen.
And I also think, I'm right, this came out late last night, but I don't sleep. I remember I tweeted this yesterday that Trump will do to NPR and PBS what Trump did to Canada. I believe already what you're seeing is inklings that people are like, you know what? I've never given money to PBS and NPR. Now I will. I'm going to give the max donation. Can you imagine the headlines? MAGA and Trump cancel Elmo and Big Bird. What better way to win over U.S. families than to cancel Elmo and Big Bird? So my prediction is it's an executive order because it's all he does right now because he thinks he's the king. He wants to take away federal funding from NPR and PBS. And the funny thing is NPR and PBS, right? They also have local stations, and those local stations are the primary news outlets of red counties and Trump voters. So good luck, America. Your stupid white supremacy is going to make your kids dumber again. Because I remember I used to see Sesame Street growing up. My kids used to love Sesame Street. But hey, they haven't bent the knee like, everyone else. So you got to punish them like you punish the Associated Press and you punish 60 Minutes. When will the institutions wake up? We'll see.
Well, speaking of punishing the children, because Donald Trump also said this week that, maybe instead of having 30 dolls, because that's what most kids have, instead of having 30 dolls, they have 2, and those 2 dolls are more expensive. The cost of what 30 dolls used to be. But that's just what kids will have to deal with on top of just making them stupid. So,
just remarkable.
This, folks, take a look at what is happening in Oklahoma. Next school year, thousands of high school students in Oklahoma will be required to learn about Trump's debunked claims that the 2020 election was tainted by fraud. The lesson will not be a part of a course on conspiracy theories, but an official lesson. So Oklahoma will require students to learn about phony conspiracy theories, nonsense data, all to support Donald Trump's big lie. And so Waj clips this story, and I'm like, I wonder where Oklahoma sits in terms of rankings and education in the country.
Wait, let me take a guess.
Anyone want to take a guess?
I say 49th or 48th.
Very good. Oklahoma ranks 49th in education.
I didn't know that. That was just an educated guess. That was an educated guess. Thank you, education.
Very good. According to 2024 Kids Count report, Oklahoma's lowest ranking coming in at 49th was in education. The state was ranked 45th for health, 40th for family, and community and 39th in economic well-being. For the love of God. And yes, John, very good. Oklahoma is not okay.
It ain't okay. And also Louisiana is the other state where, one of the elected officials, the Republicans, introduced the 10 Commandments, right? So they used Louisiana and Oklahoma as a testing ground for white Christian nationalism. And I'm so glad you brought this image up, because in the places where literally we need to teach these kids how to read and do math,
Correct.
and, to educate them, where they're already in the bottom 3, bottom 4 states, we have white Christian nationalists who are like, no, we don't need the kids to read. We don't need the kids to learn. We need them to be future red shirts for the Republican Party and to hear about conspiracy theories and not believe about evolution. And we want the women to grow up to be barefoot trad wives with 18 kids. This is how you make America great again. And folks,
you'll get a medal. You'll get a medal for all the kids.
You'll get a medal. And the Trump administration, 7-8 days ago, there was a New York Times, we've talked about this on this show, is now giving women and families bonuses. It's promising to pay families $5,000 for more kids because they're obsessed with natalism. Not for all the right reasons, but because they want to make white babies great again. So the whole, folks, this is a game plan. Make white babies great again. Mm-hmm. Get rid of all the brown and black babies. That's why we have the Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon in there with the immigration. Even as the country's being destroyed, doesn't matter, right? Raise the birth rates. The productive whites will be the ones who will lead the rest of us. They will be the children of Elon Musk and the 1%, right? The productive whites will then be, if you will, they'll evolve. The rest of us will be culled, right? There'll be registries, no Social Security, so we work until death. We work without healthcare. We work without any vacation days, right? You make it on your own, or else, hey, it's a culling evolution. Also, we probably also won't work because, as Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, said, we will be replaced. He said this last month
by robots
and AI. But don't you worry, Elon Musk and the bro oligarchy will have their techno states, and with their chosen whites, I'm not making this up. They will take the chosen whites to now go and be like Star Trek, and then, go to other planets and then reform and, terraform those planets, and then also live forever because, they don't want to die because they're going to fuse with AI. That's the plan. And people are like, you're crazy, Waj. And I give you this.
Yeah. So
you need, like Jules said it, you need a brown and black caste system. There you go. And also poor whites.
Yeah, which is the majority of their base. So there's that. Okay, so let's go on to the other breaking news that then broke yesterday and then broke again, which was Mike Waltz. So Mike Waltz, this was the story that was just like, wait, what? So he gets kicked out as national security advisor. But then, so media breaks that story. As well as his deputy director is dismissed. Then all of this is circulating about, heads rolling, this, that, and the other thing. They don't like that. So Donald Trump decides to play 3-card Monty, which he loves to do with his staff, and moves them around. So Mike Waltz is now being nominated to be a UN ambassador. And then Marco Rubio, the lone, I think one of the few Latinos in the administration, is now going to do 2 jobs.
Three jobs.
Oh, 3 jobs. Wait,
because so remember, he's also interim head of USAID.
Well, that doesn't exist anymore, so that doesn't even matter. So there you have. So on top of which, here is this week, we had Donald Trump's 100-day benchmark of destruction. And sitting in the 2-hour reality TV show with all their MAGA hats, and we'll show you that picture in a moment, guess who's caught on signal? Again.
Another one. Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor.
I don't understand. Like, what? Also, out of the people that should have been fired, which they all should be, but Mike Waltz wouldn't have been my first choice to relieve of their position. It would have been Hegseth. So what do you make of the fact that Hegseth had a separate signal chain with his wife, his brother-in-law, and his personal attorney? also had it installed on his computer at work so that he could be using Signal on his work computer, which again, the Pentagon had given out advisory on, saying that it was an unsecure platform. Why the fuck does he still have a job?
Okay, so I agree with you that if in normal times, if I had now not just a trilogy of Signalgate, but with that latest photo, I would say that's a reboot. So now there's 4 Signalgate stories, right? Unsecure app, like you mentioned, in which the Pentagon itself warned the Trump administration that it could be possibly hacked. Mike Waltz, folks, as the head of the NSA, his team apparently accidentally invited Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic on their unsecure thread. And Mike Waltz goes on Fox. I'm so glad you have this, and said, I don't know how he got in. I think it must have been sucked in. And Jeffrey Goldberg is like, this isn't the Matrix. Phone numbers don't just get sucked into other phones.
But like, we have to just say this. It was the stupidest explanation, as if he was talking to people that have never seen, that don't have cell phones, and we don't know how they work. It is the most mundane piece of technology that we all carry around with us. And he's like, you know how sometimes numbers get sucked into your phone, and then you're like, ah.
And we're like, wait, what? How does a number get sucked into your phone?
And so,
because they refuse to claim responsibility, because these dumbasses literally are so reckless, so incompetent, Danielle. In addition to Signalgate and him doing that, I want to remind people, he also had his Venmo public. He didn't learn. He didn't learn from Matt Gaetz. He had his Venmo public. He also used Gmail for government conversations, but her emails. And after all of this, just this week, he was caught using Signal again, talking to the other cabinet members. And like you mentioned, this is all for the folks who don't know the story. Also, Pete Hegseth lied, because Pete Hegseth is the one who sent the military plans on the first Signalgate, which were, of course, sent to Jeffrey Goldberg because he got sucked in. And then Pete Hegseth lied to the American public. And then Pete Hegseth, what Danielle's referring to just a week and a half ago, got caught again sending confidential government information to another Signal chat in which his wife, who is not part of the government, and his brother is just got sucked into. In addition to this being dangerous, reckless, incompetent, it also could be, folks, illegal. People go to jail for this. And so I was thinking it should be Pete Hegseth. Should be Pete Hegseth number 1, Mike Waltz number 2. But if you remember when this story broke about 2 weeks ago, a few underlings were fired. Now, the reason why the few underlings were fired is because, you can't make this shit up, Laura Loomer had a 30-minute brief with Donald Trump. She had
what we call it now?
Loomer. So Laura Loomer, we talked about on the show. She, for whatever reason, I'll just 1 second for those who don't know who Laura Loomer is, got a 30-minute private head-to-head with Donald Trump, brought in a binder full of papers, marked certain people to be deleted, and Donald Trump, not listening to Mike Waltz, literally, because Mike Waltz was like, please don't do this. He goes, no, Laura Loomer said I got to fire these people. They fired a couple of underlings, okay? Who is Laura Loomer? One of the most racist, most Islamophobic, most batshit nutty MAGA conspiracy theorists, who's so racist that Marjorie Taylor Greene says, you're racist. That's the person who has the ear of Donald Trump. And yesterday, tell him who took credit for getting Mike Waltz's scalp?
Laura Loomer.
Laura Loomer. And she actually gave it a verb. She goes, Loomered.
So here's the thing. One, I'm with our audience member, Deanne, who said brief. I don't know what Trump gets from her for a half hour, but I do know that there are lots of pictures with them hugged up in very inappropriate ways. And, we know that Donald Trump, all you have to do is throw him a little flattery, a little flirt, a little wink and a nod, and you pretty much can get what you want. Just ask Putin. So, but I want to show folks the picture. The cabinet has gone, as Maine Wong says, full North Korea.
Absolutely.
They are all terrified of the dear leader. And look, I'm not going to say the terrified piece, because no, they love this shit. They feed on this. They're not afraid, because if you say they're afraid, then you have to feel empathy for these people. No, they signed up for them for this.
Absolutely.
So here they are sitting around for 2 hours for this reality TV North Korea show with their MAGA hats around them, spending 2 hours literally fluffing Donald Trump. You're wonderful. We're in a renaissance, said Hegseth. We're safer, said Waltz. According to Pam Bondi, Attorney General, Donald Trump has saved 258 million Americans from fentanyl overdose. Newsflash, everyone. There are only 330 million Americans in the United States. So basically, she said that all of us are on drugs. And thank God for Donald Trump, because in 100 days, and she said it, Waj, she panned to the camera and she said, ready, media, 258 million. I know it's hard for you to report on the truth.
This is what happens when white supremacy gets power. Ultimately self-destructive and dumb. Do we have a video clip? Can we play that?
No, we don't. I don't have the clip of it. I don't have. I couldn't find it.
It was but like,
it was bananas.
Danielle's not exaggerating. It is bananas. It is like that scene from Manchurian Candidate, where I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's fantastic. The reboot was really good too, where they get brainwashed and they're like, "Oh, can you please explain, like, how Raymond was your colleague? Raymond was the most kind, most warm, most gentle, most great man I've ever met in my life." Like, literally, they say it just like that. And then afterwards, like, wait, what did I just say? They are sitting there like held captive, but voluntary captives, right? With Stockholm syndrome, because they know how incompetent Donald Trump is. I want to remind everyone that the two people who warned about what would happen if the Republican Party nominated Donald Trump and warned what would happen in America were Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham.
Correct.
And Marco Rubio is not a stupid man. And Marco Rubio realized he hit the ceiling. He knew he could go as far as he could go, because while he was given the State of the Union or rebuttal, instead of actually landing it, he did this. Remember that? The nervousness. Oh, yeah. So he became a punchline. And he's like, this is how I stay relevant. And with power, I'll sell out my Cuban communities. I'll sell out America, and I'll be the national security advisor and the head of USAID. And I'll be like now also the Secretary of State. I'm the only Latino there, so I'll do 4 jobs. That's what they're used to. That's what the white men are used to. He's like, what else do you want me to do? You want me to sweep? I'll do whatever you want. And then,
okay, boss, whatever you need, boss.
Whatever you need, boss. Yes, boss. And then Lindsey Graham was the other person who openly warned America that if Donald Trump becomes the leader of the party, the Republican Party deserves what it gets. Remember that? That was about 10 years ago. And earlier this week, Lindsey Graham on his own on Twitter went and said, you know who should be the next pope? Donald Trump. And when Lindsey Graham was asked a couple years ago, how'd you do a 180? He openly admitted, I want to be relevant. So what Daniel said is key. They all want to be there. We should not feel pity for them. When Senator Murkowski said, oh, we're afraid for violence. You created this monster. You rode this monster, and now the monster is riding you all the way up and all the way down, folks.
Yeah. Bravo to them. So, speaking of which, there are some people who are not bending the knee. Now, Microsoft just dropped a law firm that appeased Trump and hired one that's fighting him, right? MSNBC, I don't think did they say, while the reporting has not been independently verified by MSNBC or NBC News, the switch has been confirmed in official court filings. About a week ago, attorneys at one firm, Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett, which recently reached an agreement with Trump and his team, informed a court in Delaware that it would no longer be representing Microsoft in an acquisitions case. So what we see here, right, is that lo and behold, there are some companies, some places that are pushing back and are saying no. And I thought to myself, as we're putting this show together, why would Microsoft make this move? Well, wonder. So here you go. Take a look at the impact on Microsoft with Donald Trump's tariffs in full effect. Xbox Series, whatever that number is, the old price, $299. The new price, $379. The next Xbox Series, $349. Now the new price, $429. The numbers just keep going up and up and up on everything, right? Donald Trump says, well, maybe, you just keep using your old Xbox, I guess, because in his America, you can't afford to do shit. And also you don't have a job.
And real quick, I play video games. I wish I had more time to play more video games, but the video gaming base, a lot of these guys are young men, and a lot of these folks, vote now. And some of them voted for Donald Trump, right? They get sucked into the manosphere and brosphere. And also, unfortunately, video gaming is also the site of some of this toxic misogyny, right? Gamergate and whatnot. And this is how the right wing kind of, if you will, Trojan horse its politics, right? Number one. Number two, video games is a multi-billion-dollar global industry, right? Mm-hmm. So you have just pissed off millions of men, because now in the summer, it's going to be summer vacation. Xbox games are going to cost $80 per game, right? It's a 20% increase. That's huge. That's $100, folks, right? For these consoles. And also we know that Nintendo Switch, the new one that's coming out, also had to delay its release because it had moved its manufacturing plant to Vietnam, because they realized, it's probably going to be a tit for tat with China. So they moved it to Vietnam, good forward thinking there, Nintendo. And guess what happened to Vietnam because of Donald Trump? Oh yeah, tariffs and the stupid trade war. Right. So now the prices of the new Nintendo is probably going to go up. Everything's going to get delayed. And so all these video gamers, folks who voted for Donald Trump, when it hits their bottom line and their passion, now you're seeing them reel. So Microsoft, I think, has realized, you want to think that Microsoft did the right thing. And I was like, there has to be another story. And no, it's because they realize, oh shit, we look at the poll numbers, we look at the economy, and we now predict, I think what Microsoft is telling us, showing us, if you will, without telling us, is, let's hedge our bets and put a little bit of toes into the resistance.
So let's do a rundown now of things that seem to be signaling resistance and support, things that are good. Because, folks, we know that by the time we run through on Friday, it is like, pass me the bottle of vodka if you're a drinker. Or just like roll me back into bed and close the curtain.
More chai in a big ass mug.
More chai, bigger cup. But here are some good things that are happening. So Judge Rodriguez, a Trump appointee, rules that the administration cannot use the Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged members of TDA. It's a wartime authority, and we are not at war. Like, again, this is the manufactured crisis that Donald Trump and this regime have been putting together so that they can use wartime policies, right? So that they can unleash, as Donald Trump signed this week, an executive order allowing him to increase military representation in our U.S. cities, right? And spaces, because what he wants is to be able to rule by fiat. He wants martial law. So if you create the chaos, then you can bring in the supposed response to that. This judge is saying, who is a Trump appointee, you cannot use this wartime act. We know that when it went up, it will go up to the Supreme Court. And we know that there is hesitancy at the Supreme Court now on the parts of Coney Barrett and others. So we will pay attention to this and see where it goes. Another piece of actual good news. Waj, tell them about this.
Yeah. So, folks, this Trump administration has gone after legal immigrants, right? We know the story of Kilmar Garcia. We know the story of the 3 planes of allegedly El Salvador immigrants who are now basically without due process suffering in a foreign gulag in El Salvador. But they've simultaneously also gone after pro-Palestinian activists and students. We know Mahmoud Khalil, 0 crimes, stuck in Louisiana. We know Rumeza Ozturk. She's in Louisiana because she basically wrote an op-ed for thought crimes. One of the leaders, a Columbia University student, a Palestinian student who was born in the West Bank, who has been here for 10 years, Mohsen Madawi, went for his naturalization test, right? Imagine being an immigrant, like, man, I've been here 10 years. I'm going for my citizenship test. He goes to a citizenship test. Again, 0 criminal charges.
Right.
And ICE agents are waiting for him, essentially arrest him. He does a peace signal. He's been detained for a couple of weeks. And thankfully, there's been a group that has put him in the news, has not forgotten about him. And a judge released him on bail. And he walked out. And then when he walked out, there was a huge crowd, Danielle, mostly white folks, by the way.
Yep.
And he gave a really it was really inspiring. You know, they hugged him. They sang songs. This guy's a model immigrant, model student, right? He even made inroads with the Jewish community, right? Like, he disagrees with them, but he's not an anti-Semite. He's not radical. Pro-Palestinian activist at Columbia University who literally has 0 criminal charges, been here for nearly a decade, went to become a citizen, and they locked him up, and he came out. And look at this guy, brown skin, literally got abducted while trying to become a citizen, comes out, didn't cower, didn't bend the knee like all these Republicans. He said to all the cameras, to President Trump and his cabinet, I'm not afraid of you.
Here we go.
And we send a clear message as well, that if we have faith in our beliefs, unshakable beliefs, which is the belief that justice is inevitable.
Yes.
We will not fear anyone, because our fight is a fight for love, is a fight for democracy, is a fight for humanity.
Amen.
And I am saying it clear and loud.
Yes.
To President Trump and his cabinet.
Yes.
I am not afraid of you.
That was great.
I mean, you know, you have somebody who has already been, right, thrown in jail, abducted, having more courage than Lisa Murkowski, a senator that has all the money, all the power in the world. And she says, oh, but I'm afraid to speak up because, you know, we don't know what will happen. It is always the people that have the most in the game to lose, like their lives, their freedom, that have more courage and bravery than those that we put in charge to represent us. And it is a reminder, right, of how far are these people actually willing to go for me? And that's why your vote matters. The other thing that I want to, you know, show that, again, really excited about the energy that Bernie Sanders continues to bring to space and place. Philadelphia, AFL-CIO, and 5,000 people who attended the May Day celebration in Pennsylvania and all over the world. Workers are taking on the oligarchy, he writes. There were workers in Chicago. 50,000 protesters showed up on May Day to march for International Workers' Day. The people are actually showing up. And I think that it is important that when we run through these things, and we know that things are bad and they are getting worse,
Yep.
but the fact of the matter is that the people are remaining united. They are showing their power. And, you know, it was Rachel Maddow, as she was signing off from the 100 days of her show that she was doing for the first 100 days, where she said, here's what I want people to understand. Donald Trump is losing and the people and the resistance are winning. We need to keep showing up over and over and over and over and over again. Final
and
word.
We try our best to show up. Today was one of the rare shortened shows because Danielle's running around like a headless chicken, but we got it done. Folks, thank you for showing up. Please support us. We are independent media. Please like and subscribe. That's how it works. Danielle's trying to get to 25,000 subscribers. It's a great benchmark. She's almost there. So if you haven't rang the bell, ring the bell. And then once this is out, which is going to be in 1 minute, please share this everywhere. It goes a long way. Please like this video. For all the super chatters who gave us money, thank you so much. It goes such a long way. You know, Motown Mimi, Donna, Dark Queen, Barb, $1, $2, $20. It really goes a long way. It's all the super chatters. It helps Danielle drink coffee and keep sane, and me get some chai. And we are going to be back Monday at 12 p.m. We're at 12 p.m. and Friday at 12 p.m. And I believe now we're going to do Wednesday. We're going to do a check-in on Substack Live. We're going to do a check-in. We'll give you the time. But we
Yep.
did the second one just 2 days ago, and then we're going to do the third one on Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, we're going to talk about Sinners because
because I'm going to
Danielle's
go
going to
watch
go see it.
this
So go
weekend.
see the movie Sinners because we're going to break it down democracy-ish style on Wednesday on Substack app live.
Yes. All right, folks. You wanted more of us. We're giving you more of us in other places. Make sure that you subscribe to Waj's Substack, The Left Hook, which is blowing up all over the place. He does fantastic interviews every single day, it feels like, on his Substack, as well as mine, The Damn Digest. You can support us there if you're looking for ways to support us on a monthly basis. But we appreciate you all. Thank you for watching and listening to Democracy-ish. We will see you guys on Monday. Be safe, be well. Talk soon.